All right, so we're going to go ahead and officially start now. And I'm going to go ahead and change my view to gallery here for now. And what I want to do today is just rehash a little bit of last week, then go into this week. So last week we had Chad on, and he was talking about how to go about finding properties. And so Chad is a very experienced realtor, and so he is showing his different angles and kind of expressed how to find them off of the market. Um, and also in working with a realtor, then maybe how to evaluate some of the different price points. So you can rewatch the video if you want to see how that worked. But what I wanted to do in this video here today is really go over how I have always approached it myself. When I started my first foray into this area of real estate. And by this area of real estate, I mean uh, fix and flip or fix to rent properties. Okay. And so my first foray, as I mentioned, I was completely broke. And I had no money at all, had no transportation, literally had nothing. And I managed to run across Raul Reddy, who you've been introduced to before. And I was basically, for lack of a better word, a bird dog, which means that I would go out and find properties because he just told me, he said, well, if you're trying to make money, he goes, man, I'll help you out. Here's what I want you to do. Because if you find a property that I buy, I'll pay you. I'll pay you a finder's fee. I was like, all right. I mean, I had nothing going on. I had no income, and the amount that he said was more than I was getting from working some of the menial labor jobs that I was doing at the time. So um, I came up with a system to find the properties. And in the first few, they weren't what they were looking for. And so Raul had a partner at the time. His name was Ron Glenn. And so Ron kind of sat me down and said, okay, look, this is what we're looking for. This is why we didn't use those properties. I thought, man, these are great deals because they were maybe $20,000 or $40,000 under the purchase price. And so I immediately assumed, okay, that's under market. That's a good deal. He's going to buy this for sure. Well, they didn't. And so Ron kind of went through the math. And so if you haven't heard the math before, it goes something like this. So there's actually books out about the flipping and how to go about doing it. And in the book, it's real simple formula. And Devon reminded me of the book. And so I'm going to state what the book says first. Okay. So the book says um, you take the ARV of a property and you use 70% of that, and then you subtract the amount for the rehab, and then that's the price that you don't want to pay more than. That's the price you're going to pay for it. So that's great. But if you ever try to say that to a realtor, or even if you try to imply yourself, what happens is for most people, your mind kind of goes, you kind of short circuits because you're like, how do I apply this in real life? And another individual that recently got in touch with, who was very, very new to the group, messaged me after our first encounter. And she's a realtor here in Florida. And she said, for how would you express that to a realtor, um, as to what you're looking for? And I was like, yeah, you're right, because there's too many areas where you haven't defined enough to tell them what to look for. So what you're going to end up with is they're going to put you on a little list, and you're going to end up with getting everything that fits into this giant range of three-bedroom houses, and they're going to expect you to sort through it. So every day you're going to get this list, right? And that isn't really going to be of great value to you in and of itself. Okay. So what I'm going to do is teach you a little bit of how you can use tools that are at your fingertips to help you work in conjunction with your real estate professionals, which would include people that work for lenders like myself. It might include realtors, might include wholesalers, might include other investors that will work with you so that you can um, easily translate that, and for not only for them, but for yourselves, so that you can narrow it down, start searching for a property, and have results. Okay. And so at the time when this happened, I didn't have any tools. Okay. I mean, realtors really, I didn't have any relationship with any realtors at all. Um, I, didn't have access to multi-list. I didn't have any of that stuff. So I just went on Zillow. And I'm going to tell you that Zillow has a really, there's a lot of bad things about it because I think that what it does do that's harmful to the market is that it does a lot of the things the multi-list does, but at the same time, it has a lot of misleading information. So by that, it'll give you like these estimates, right? So people pull up their house and go, this house is worth this. Well, I'm sorry, but any realtor will tell you that that Zestimate is worth about that much. All it's doing is putting you into this like kind of zone, okay? But what it does have that is value is it will have, this is intermixed because not all the records are 100% accurate, but they're what I'm going to say close enough to get you enough for this project, so they can educate you enough so that you're able to have a good beat on your market and a good understanding generally of what's happening in that market. Okay, so what I'm going to do real quick here is share my screen, and we're going to just get right into it, and we're going to show you what we do. And we're going to minimize that. And of course, the reason why we're all here, just just thought I'd play that because it was up right behind it as I did that. So something we're working on. But isn't that really the reason we're all here? Is that we're trying to we want to have more free time, and we're trying to use real estate as a way that we can create the life that we want. We're not just about the money, it's about creating the lifestyle. So I'm going to go to Zillow real quick here. And the one thing that Zillow has when you go there, and we're just going to enter a zip code. One thing it has is filters. And so I'm going to try to show you how we can use those zip codes. So what I did here is I just typed in a zip code, 48221. This is a zip code in the Detroit area. Some of you will be familiar with that. I notice quite a few people are here from Detroit. But basically, this will work. The same premise will work in many, many areas. So you just type in the zip code. You can type in a city if you want, and then it'll map out. In this case, is mapping out the zip code because that's how I did it. And then what you want to do is kind of zoom in a little bit because this is a little bit large. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit because when we look at homes from a lender standpoint, what lenders look at is they want homes within a mile, maybe a half mile of your subject property. And so neighborhoods can change a lot from within a mile to 5 mile radius. It starts to change quite a bit. So the more you can narrow that down, the more sure you can be about the value of the property that you're considering. Okay. So what we have here is, so I have some boundaries that we're looking at. So I got, in this case, I'm kind of going from the bottom here from Puritan up to about 7 Mile. So just kind of looking at this square here to give you an idea. And what's happening here is you see these buttons. This says sold, and I'm just going to toggle through them to show you how to use the filters because that's what is going to help you is the filters. And it's basically showing you everything that is sold. If you change it to for sale, and they'll done it up here in red, and they'll show you everything in red and the prices that they sold for. Okay, we're going to start from sold in this case, and then the next thing you'll see is you have price, and you can just set your minimums and maximums, and we'll show how that can be a benefit here in just a couple minutes. You can also set the number of beds and baths. So you can get very specific. So you can keep narrowing it down and narrowing it down. And so that you can identify what you're looking for And what we're looking for in this case is to establish what an actual potential value is of a target property. Over here, you have home type. In this exercise, we're going to eliminate the ones that we're not looking for. And so we're going to eliminate manufactured apartments, land, condos, multifamily, townhouses. Now, maybe you're looking for those. That's okay. If you are, then leave them on, and remove the ones that you're looking for. But for this exercise, we're just going to look at houses. We're going to hit apply. Okay. Then over here, you have a whole bunch of additional options. You can put square feet. You can put has basement. You can put any of these things in here that you want to identify. I find that for the most part, I pretty much only mess with square footage and length of time in the market. Right now, I have it set on 6 months. The reason why I have it set on 6 months, because currently conventional lenders, if at least if you want to dispute an appraisal, then your comps are going to need to be within 6 months. You can change that though to any length of time you want to get an idea of what's happening in the market today. And so what your computer then is displaying is this just everything that is sold in this area in the last 6 months. So what I do and what I did at the time and I still do today is I first try to get an idea of what the top home prices are going for in that market, because that's going to create more or less an ARV. Okay. I also have in my mind maybe the size project that I want to do. This area here is going to have homes ranging everywhere from about 1,200 square feet to as much as 4,000 square feet. I probably would like to go middle of the road. And so I would say maybe 1,000 square feet minimum to maybe a maximum of say 1,750. Okay. And so then I want to apply that. And so now it's going to give me new houses. And so when I click on them, it's going to say that this one's 1,600 square feet. So it's right in there. And it tells me that it's sold for $240,000. And it's sold, even tells me the date. This is really recent. So the things that appraisers and lenders pay attention to are how close is it to your house? How similar is it to your house and the size, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and then also the quality of the finishes inside. Meaning, like, is it really outdated? Does it have holes in the walls? Is it, or is it completely updated? Does it have granite countertops? Is it Formica countertops? And they're going to give it a rating overall. And so we don't know exactly the condition of every single house, but generally, if it's the highest price house that you see, it's probably also one of the nicest finished houses. And so this is going to give you an idea of where the price points are. So then the next thing I want to do is I kind of want to get rid of the small ones for this purpose, because what I'm looking for first is what the best value I can hope to get on an ARV. So that's kind of like, and I'll establish a range. So I'd go over here and I'm going to start weeding out some, because right now, for me, I don't know how your brain works, but for me, this is too much stuff to look at. So I'm going to narrow this down. Okay. And so I put 150. And as long as I still see quite a few numbers, I'm good. I didn't narrow it down too much. So it's saying sold for 150, over 150. And you see there's quite a few here. There's one for 184. There's one for 200. There's one for 240. There's one for 160. 155. Okay, that's small, getting smaller. 169. 170. So I would say that it's safe to say that you're going to get anywhere from 150 to about 200 for a nicely finished house in the square footage range that we identified. Okay, so that's going to be my assumption, that homes between this size and this size are going to be 1,750. And I'm going to just change this last one here to 1,250 just to narrow it down just a little bit more. To give you a good idea. So now the next thing you have to do, so now you have calculated what the potential is. So the next thing you need to do is to go, okay, well, that's great. So what did that tell me? Well, you go back to the rule of thumb that the person used, and he said 70% of the ARV minus the rehab, and that should be the sales price. Okay. So and most of us get stuck here because you're like, well, I don't know how much the rehab is going to be. Well, that's okay. Just use 70% anyway for now. And at least that'll give you the homes that you can start zeroing in on. Because just because they're asking 70% or they're asking the price that's right at 70% doesn't mean that's what you have to offer. So we're going to just go up here and you're just going to change the sold. And we're going to change that to for sale. Okay. And now we're going to hit apply. And now we can see what else comes up. Okay. Um, And we're going to also have to remove this here. Don't forget to do this because right now I looked at it and go, oh, I don't see anything. Oh my gosh. But that's because I still have that minimum at 150. So we're going to change that to 0 because we don't care how cheap we can get it. Actually, that's what we're looking for, right? We want to get it as cheap as possible. But we do know that we don't want to pay under any circumstances more than 70% of 150. Okay. So real quick, we're going to do the math. 150,000 times 70% means I don't want to be looking for houses above 105 if I can help it. Okay. Now, if you feel the value is stronger, there's some reason for argument on that because maybe the potential value is higher than what I did at 150. Maybe the potential value is 200. But this is just for the class, just to give you some ideas. And I can't cover every possible scenario. So we're just going to put 105 in here. Okay. Now, what you're going to see is that we're seeing that there's several here that may be good ones to zero in on. So this one here might be a good option. It's $45,000. So using the math we said, let's take a look at it. 1,400 square feet, and it's going to have some pictures. It looks like it looks like some siding needs some help. Probably needs quite a bit of work. Inside needs a lot of work. Okay. So you may not want to offer 45. It's in pretty bad shape. But at 45,000, that means you've got at least 60 to 70,000 of money available for rehab, even at the 45 price. Although the home that you guys may remember that I did in Buckingham, the total cost was just about 65,000. And if you remember that house, we did a complete gut. We removed all the walls, all the wiring, all the plumbing, then put in all new mechanicals, all new walls, painted floors, everything. Okay. So this house looks scary, but if you're going to do a complete demo, it's a complete demo. Okay. What matters is, does it have good bones? So I would look at this house. Okay. It may look scary, but maybe at the end of the day, when somebody goes and does an estimate on it, you might find out that it's not quite as much as you thought. One of the things that maybe would hold me back a little bit more on this particular house is that it's not a brick home. They tend to be a little bit harder in this market where you have a lot of brick homes to get the high dollar for. Okay. But remember, we were on the low end when we estimated the 150 of what the ones fixed up could potentially be. Now, that's just finding it off of Zillow. Okay. But there's something else, though, that this did for us. Okay. This gave us an idea of what to expect in this market. This is not our only tool. Now you can go to your realtor and go, you know what? I'm looking for homes that are right around 1,250 square feet or higher, that maybe 1,750, but it could be bigger, but I don't want to go over 105,000 on the price. And so you just lay that out for them because that puts in real clear language, okay? So that then they can start going out and finding properties for you that are either on the market are not on the market. In addition to that, though, we have other tools. We talked about the on the last class, we talked about a couple of the classes, we talked about the tax sales. Okay, so now you can go through that list for the tax sales next time it comes around, and you can say, I'm familiar with this market, so I'm going to look for homes that have this zip code because I know what homes in the zip code are potentially worth. And then you start doing your due diligence on that individual project. So I'm just going to pause here before I go right into the next thing and stop the share for just a moment. And go ahead and let anyone that would like to comment or add something to that, go ahead and speak out just a little bit about it's particularly if someone has any questions and you need to know. And I want to invite. There's a lot of people that have information that they would like to convey to others. So if anybody does ask a question and you feel that you'd like to address it, just raise up your hand. You can go ahead and say something about it. Yeah, so go ahead. Anyone? And Yvonne and I actually had the call earlier this morning, and she was sharing with me the book, and that's where we came up with the 70% minus the rehab equation there. So yeah, so Yvonne, how have you gone about finding properties? Because you've bought since our first workshop in February, which you were brand new at the time. You've bought how many houses have you bought? Because that's kind of incredible.
3 so far.
Three, and you have
Yeah.
actually completed rehabs and resold some of those. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, the first thing I wanted to mention is you also got to look at price per square footage. Is when you're doing your Zillow as to a price range, look at the houses and like price per square footage, because that's what kind of burned us on our first house. We had a really good house, it was a good flip, but our price per square footage was too high for that market. So even though the house was great, that was a key thing that people look at is price. So even though the house may be 150, which you can sell it for, but like at the price per footage, if that house is $150 per square foot, and normally they are between 80 to 100, you're going to get burned. So
Yeah.
that's the other really important part to look at is the price per square footage, and not many people realize that. And then also that was our first house that we bought. It was a small house, 2 bedroom. We were able to get a little bit more than price per square footage, but it is what it is. Not as much as we wanted. So that's that. And then as for the other two, wholesalers, get on buyers lists. Sorry, Lisa, I know you're a realtor and it helps you to sell them, but if you have good relationships, you'll end up, you'll be the person that's on the seller's list to help them sell it. But yeah, buyer's list are wholesale deals. I think I'm on 3 to 5 of them every day. I get new houses that are up for sale, a wholesale list. There's one now, 2 of them that I'm looking at today. One's in Ypsilanti and one's in Westland, and it's just every day I get a text message, check this house out. Some are in Detroit, some are in Ypsilanti, some are in Flint, like all over the state of Michigan. And then once you are on their list, if you get a good rapport with them, then what happens is you can send them your criteria. This is what I'm looking for. And therefore they'll send you that. Our second house that we purchased in Lincoln Park, I bought off a buyer's list. Where the first one I bought through a realtor. It happened to be someone in their office. The first one was selling it. It came up. So we were the first people to look at it and we purchased it right away, which is great. We got a good deal. Now, the second one in Lincoln Park was a wholesale deal. Look at that. Realize you can negotiate the closing costs because we paid a lot of money for closing costs than what we should have. But that, again, is a learner's curve. So now, because I bought that one house and I sent in my requirements, anytime there's a 3-bedroom house with a basement or a garage outside of Detroit, he sends them to me right away. So that is the other part.
I love that point you brought up about the square footage because I forget that, and this is so true with so many things, right? So the way that a prospective buyer looks at it is not always the way a lender or an appraiser looks at it. Okay. And so you got to remember that the people buying it are, so you kind of got to satisfy both of them. And I was giving you the lender brain, and so you're giving me the consumer brain. And we need both. You can't just go with one. You both are, without the buyer, you don't have a deal. Without the lender and appraiser, you may not have a deal either. So they're both important gauges. So thank you, because I have left that out, and every single time I've spoken. But you're absolutely right; it's a great measurement. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for sharing. You are on fire. There's one other thing I want to ask you about. Okay,
Sure.
you have uh, done a lot with finding and working with these different meetup groups. How
Mhm.
how did you find them? How did you establish which ones to go to? How did you do that?
So Facebook Marketplace or Facebook. So everybody wants I look at Facebook as to Metro Detroit real estates. And then from there, it's these meetups that people have. So as for ones to go to, I just look at ones that are close to me. I mean, there's one in Ann Arbor, or Ypsilanti, that literally is 5 miles from my house, and they meet the second Tuesday. There's one that's in Shields, which is the first Tuesday, which I missed. And that's right by my work. So I can stop in after work. And there's one in Troy that meets, on Thursdays, and that's a little further out. Depending if I'm in the office, I'll hit that one up, which is a good one. So it's just a matter of Facebook. And Meetup. I mean, the other one is the app Meetup, and they'll post them on there, different real estate things.
Well,
So
great
yeah.
stuff. Thank you so much for sharing. I looked like it saw Raul raise a hand, and it looked like Alfonso wanted to chime in there for a second too. I'm not sure. Nope, you didn't. Okay. Raul, did you still want to add something there? I saw your hand up for a minute.
Yeah, I was actually giving kudos to Yvonne for her success and her diligence. I think those are really, really, really good points. The only other one is stuff that you and I have talked about is when you're doing that budgeting or that preliminary budget. 70% times ARV equals rehab plus construction budget, right? Do the best you can to include potential overage, right? We know that a lot of times eats up margin. They talk about, so if your rehab budget is 20,000, the rule of thumb is somewhere between 10 and 20%. If you're really, really good, 10%, um, and you'd have to be really, really good, right? And so I normally look at like 15 to 20%. If I'm wrong, or if I can, if I'm wrong, great. But if I'm right, it naturally is really important. And again, that's of the rehab budget, not necessarily the overall. And then, and definitely, when you're looking at ARVs or after repair values, um, price per square foot, super important, days on market, right? In other words, I think Yvonne's point was that there's a lot of different metrics you want to look at to help you kind of feel it out, right? And so don't always go with the highest, don't always go with the lowest. And I think one of the points you were making is take a look across, like in that whole area, right? And I think it gives you a feeling for, yeah, I know it says it could be a range of 150 to 175, but given what's been going on the last 30 days, maybe I should really be shooting for 160 rather than 170.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good rule of thumb, and that's where the professionals come in, right? That's when you work with professionals that can really give you
I, I
a deeper dive.
I agree, guys. And so I want you to know that those percentages and things that I use, those are those work for that market that I was showing, okay? And they generally will work in any market, but some markets, they you apply that, it's gonna be very hard finding the properties. You're just gonna have to put a lot more effort in. I encourage you to still try to use those percentages. Um, but in some markets where the properties are very, very hot, and there are some places around the country where they're still extremely hot, you're going to find, and you're going to be, and you could be enticed to go ahead and just pay over that because the appreciation is so strong historically. Like in the area where I'm at, you're seeing 19 and 23% year after year on the even now on home values. Okay. So when you're in that market, I mean, that $200,000 house would be worth $40,000 more, and you didn't do nothing to it in a year. Okay, so you can fall into it's a lot of flippers look like geniuses in these areas, but really it's the market. But if the market doesn't continue to be like that, you're putting yourself at risk. You're rolling the dice in those situations a little bit more. But at the same time, the lenders also are more aggressive too, and they will go up to 75 or even 80% in those type of markets. So you got to be flexible. You do have to look at your own individual market. Go to those meetup groups though, because those are going to be local people that are doing the business, and so they're going to have more clue as to what's going on. And then the other part is just really looking at some of these other things that you have available. Wendy's been great at doing this as far as finding some of these alternative areas. Like she's bought them from, I believe you bought them from tax sales. She's doing her first land bank one right now. And I mean, land bank deals, the prices that you pay for the purchase price is sometimes lower than what the closing costs are on the loan. And actually a lot of the cases because they are that substantially reduced of a price. And so in those markets, it gives you, a tremendous advantage if you're starting at a super low price point. It always is helpful to have a low price point. All right. Anybody else would like to chime in on that before I go into showing a few other things real quick? Yeah, Lisa. Are you raising your hand or are you just adjusting your screen?
I have an ant crawling on my laptop.
Oh, okay. You're just getting rid of okay, no problem. Fantastic. Yeah,
It's
so
just flicking them off of there. It's fine.
so remember your resources. You have individuals keep an ear to the ground. So it's important to let everyone know that you're looking for houses to buy. So you see those street signs says I buy houses. They work. They actually work. Say I buy houses cash any condition. They work. Business cards, I buy houses any condition. Putting on Facebook, I buy houses any condition. And letting everybody know that you do that. So then when they stumble across somebody in a situation, hopefully they'll think of you and you'll get a crack at it before they go and try to sell it to somebody else and don't even think of you, right? Another resource here that we haven't talked about a great deal on this series that I'm going to show real quick is something called the Legal News. Has anybody, Lisa, are you raising your hand again? No, you're waving away your fly. Okay.
No, I was waving at one of my partners.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and so what I want to do here from our class that we had, I'm going to replay a short video I made from previous workshop on the Legal News. And I want to tell you, this is a great resource, okay? And as you watch this, you're going to see how you can use it now that you've done research in a particular area. You can go into things like the Legal News, and you can find homes that you might be able to take advantage of. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to play this clip from the Legal News. So enjoy. And go over here to the Legal News. So what I want to let you know is that you can just go and type in thelegalnews.com. When you do that, you're going to have the option to, you can search, but if you do so, it's not going to give you enough information. It's going to tell you about a foreclosure, but just enough to let you know that something's there, but nothing that is material that you need. In order to get the material you need, you're going to need to subscribe. Okay. Now, when you get to the subscription part, you can subscribe for a year, 6 months, and it's kind of hefty. It's a couple $100, okay, for 6 months or a year. But they offer something that is for one day, also for $4.95. So what I did is I just signed in and I set up a subscription for $4.95. And the reason why I did that is I feel that you could do a whole lot of investigating in one day. And you can simply find the notices that you're looking for, print them out, save them, then you start weeding through them to see which ones are gold, okay? Now, when you do that, and I'm going to go back to the beginning here for it. See how I can do that. What you're going to want to do is get to just public notices. Is where I clicked on here. Did that. I'm just trying to show you the beginning of it. But when you do get there, what you're going to do is once you've subscribed, you're going to want to click on public notices. Once you're there, you want to do the advanced search. Now you could just type in here if you know exactly what you're looking for, but it's not going to be as helpful as doing an advanced search. So you're going to go to advanced search. You're going to click foreclosures. You can also search for probates and other things like that. Probates might be another area too, because often estate sales is a great place to buy properties and get good deals on them. So you're going to go into foreclosure, and then we're going to just start searching by county, by city, or by zip code. And so you can narrow it down all the way down to zip code. Does anybody have a city that they're maybe just curious about, that they'd like to see what's there? And let's start with that, and I can do that as an example. Anybody?
Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Roscommon, Michigan.
Roscommon. Is it
4
county
8
or?
You can try zip 48653.
Okay.
I've actually been looking for something I would love to Airbnb.
So that's all you do. You type in 48653. Then you just click search. All right. So I don't know if you guys can see the whole screen here, but it says that there's 630 results found. These are the dates of them. Now you can just click on it here and it'll pull it up. And so this is kind of like a little cliff note about it. It tells you who's being foreclosed on, but not some of the information like the city and stuff. But if we're over here, if you click on full description, okay, I do have a subscription. Hold on a minute. Log out or something? Sorry guys, I logged out and I didn't realize it. All right. That's not helpful here. Hang on just a minute. All right, sorry about that. I didn't realize that I wasn't signed in. All right, so this is great though, because now I'm back at the front page that I was trying to get to before. So when you get here, you're going to go to public notices. Then you're going to go to advanced search. Then you're going to go to the zip code. What was the zip code again?
48653.
Oh, I forgot to hit foreclosures.
Mhm.
All right, so we'll just click on this first one here, and then we're going to go full. So this here will tell you everything you need to know about this. Okay, it tells you the mortgage that's on it. It looks like Rocket Mortgage did the mortgage, and $37,750 was the amount of the mortgage that's being foreclosed on. And it will also tell you the date that it was recorded, so 2016. So in most cases, they're not going to be owing more than 37,000. It's probably going to be lower than that. So they've had that mortgage for about 7 years. So you could expect that's probably paid down some. Now, what you'd want to do once you have that is now you have the address. And you're just going to take that and you're going to put it into Google. It's going to bring up Zillow, which is just, this is just for fast, quick looking right now, okay? And Zillow says might be worth as much as 114,000. Don't know how accurate that is. Don't know anything about it, but and it doesn't look like this is giving you any details as far as the square footage and so forth of this particular house. So this one could be just land. Doesn't, not really telling us much about it. So I would probably move on to the next one, you know, unless you're familiar with the area. I did do this a little bit earlier today as well, and I found a couple of other properties. We looked in Plymouth, we looked in Garden City for just a couple of minutes to see how it would look, and we found this one here. And you guys, I didn't go through clicking on like tons and tons of them. I just clicked on one. Actually, just clicked on two, and both of them looked pretty good. In this case, they owed, and this is gonna be hard to see. Apologize, try to make it bigger here. This particular case, they owed about, what's that? $39,400 is the size of the mortgage. That was as of 2017. And one thing interesting too is, like, I happen to be in the business, so I recognize certain types of companies. So Carrington Mortgage Services is a hard money lender. So that means they probably lent very small percentage of the value compared to regular other loans. So like FHA will loan almost 100% of the value. Carrington's likely to lend 50 or 60% of the value. So that 37,000 at the time they did it, it's probably representative of something around 60% of the value of the house. So if we do the same thing in this one, the 31225 Roslyn. And they're telling us, this is the picture of the house. They're saying about 156,000 is its value. Now it's being foreclosed on, just a mortgage balance of $36,000, guys. And it's not for sale. Okay. So that tells me that somebody's got their head in the sand and they just don't know what to do. Okay. This is one where you might want to go knock on the door. Hey, I see you're having trouble. If I lived by there, I think what I would do is I'd knock on the door, say, hey, looks like you might be having trouble. Would you like to stay in your house? Or, are you just trying to get cash out? You might say, no, I'm really trying to stay in the house. Well, would you be willing to sell it to me? If you're able to stay here and I give you the option to buy it back, you could buy that house at a significantly reduced price, give them the option to buy it back, just ask them what they might be comfortable making as a monthly payment. I happen to know one person that's a private lender now worth about $400 million. And that is exactly how he got started, exactly what he did back during the housing crash. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and just because the time here is a little bit longer than I meant to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share there on that. And yeah, so the point is that there's so many resources that we have, and being able to get a good beat on on the area that we want to buy, that is the first step. When you're doing this, you need to find out where do you want to invest and have a good idea of what that property is potentially worth. And so all of these other areas, whether you buy from a tax sale, whether you buy from uh, a, a foreclosure, a probate, a estate sale, all of those things are great ways to find properties. But the first thing you need to know is the market where you're buying it in. And then uh, we want to work in conjunction. And I really recommend, even when you're buying it from these areas, you want to have a realtor working with you. Have something worked out with them just because they're going to give you insights. They're going to be able to talk to you. So maybe they aren't getting paid on the purchase. Maybe they are. That's up to you and them. Maybe they're getting paid because you have an agreement that when you fix it up, they're going to be the ones to sell it. Maybe that's your deal. Every deal is different. But I will tell you that if you're new, having someone else, another set of eyes, going, hey, you know what? Yeah, I don't know about this because of this problem here, or because you know what, they're planning to put a sewage treatment plant right in your backyard. So I don't think you would want that house. I mean, there's different things that you may or not be aware of. Having someone else to, be that size is really important because this is when you're going and embarking on this, it's a big decision. And you want to protect yourselves and mitigate your risk as much as possible. Uh, the next thing I wanted to share, and I just wanted to, this one's only about 6 minutes long, and this one's on DSCR. So a number of you here, we've talked about the financing for fix and flip, but we haven't really covered very much in depth how DSCR works. And I think it's really important because if you don't understand the mechanics of that, and that is your exit plan, it can trip you up, particularly because interest rates have gone up and they've gone up fast enough that, especially in the markets where homes are higher priced, and when I say higher priced, I mean 300 up, maybe 400, 500. Okay. In the smaller markets, doesn't seem to be much of an issue. The amount of payment versus the rent is very proportional. But as you go up that ladder that gets up compressed to the point that at some point it starts to become inverted in most market. And by inverted, I mean the payment required becomes more than the regular mortgage payment. Okay. So that's going to be a really important factor if your exit strategy happens to be to retain the house. So it's really good to get a good idea of what those rents are ahead of time if that's one of your exits strategies. So if everybody has about 5 more minutes, and I'm going to just take a quick survey, I can just save it to the next meeting because we are right at the end of the class. But it is about a 6 minute class. How many people would like to see it today, and how many would like to have it next week? Just by real show of or shout out, you can get an idea. All right.
I have time today.
Okay. Yvonne would like to see it next week as another topic. Okay. Well, I tell you what, I think it's important. I do have, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a blend. I'm going to post it. I'll have it be a main topic for next week. And next week will be a little bit more in depth, but I'm going to cover it real short here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do the 5 minutes. If you can stick around for it, great. If not, we're going to copy it again. So I'm going to pull that up real quick. And I forgot that I need to share my screen to share. I can't share anything with you without sharing my screen. Hey everyone, this is a quick little video about DSCR. And if you are involved in acquiring properties for long-term rental, whether that be as an exit plan for one of your rehab projects, or whether you're just buying them turnkey, DSCR is an important word for you to learn to use if you're looking for using it to qualify for a home. In short, DSCR stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. This is used by the lender to determine the payment you can qualify for on a given property, and is used in combination with factors such as credit, down payment, or loan to value to determine the maximum loan amount. Now, what it's used in place of is going ahead and getting tax returns and figuring out all of your other debts. Now, some lenders do use components of those as well. If you go on the conventional side and you try to qualify for a loan through traditional sources using investment or rental property and going through their procedures. But DSCR is meant to be a shortcut to show that the lender that you have the means to pay the property. And so in short, the DSCR needs to be greater than your new payment, at least in theory. And so what DSCR is taking that relationship and translating it into a ratio. And so you'll hear lenders using a 1% ratio, or a 1.1 ratio, or 1.2 or 1.4, and all those different things. And so what those are going to limit how much you can borrow depending on what your DSCR is. And so the next question that naturally follows that is, how can I calculate DSCR? How can you know in advance if you're going to qualify for the mortgage that you're looking for? Now, when interest rates were really low, this was not as big of an issue as you're going to be able to see as it is today. As interest rates have gone up, it has become more and more of something to pay attention to. In the past, the appraiser just basically established what the value was, and then we would only look at the loan amount versus the value, and then that would determine it. But on a long-term rental, they're using the DSCR in addition to that to make sure that a person can qualify. All right. The next part about it too is also LTV, which is one other thing that is going to be a limiting factor. And we're going to cover that, but first we're going to go into this DSCR, okay? And what I did here is I took a regular mortgage calculator and I have converted it and added in some components for DSCR. So just a method for you to be able to see how it directly affects the loan amount that you can qualify for. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to play around with it just a little bit today, putting in some different numbers. I'm going to perfect it just a little bit more and then have it available as well for all of you to access and use. So what I did here is you just have a couple of key things. You can put in the value. To be honest with you, for this part, you don't really need. This might be just a placeholder, though, for you to remember what you used as far as a purchase price or value. What really matters is going to be the interest rate and the loan amount for calculating DSCR. Okay, so interest rates today are ranging anywhere from the high sixes to as much as maybe 9%. They had been as low as 4.5% for 30-year fixed on rentals just as of last year. So what you have over here is you have the property taxes as well. You're going to need to know that. You're going to need to know what the insurance is, and you're going to need to know what the HOA dues are, if any. All of those get calculated, and then you translate everything there into a monthly amount. And so you have the taxes, $3,500 a month. $3,500 a year. That's going to be $291 a month. Hazard insurance at $900 per year would be $75 a month. There's no HOAs on this house, and then you would end up with this much being your monthly interest per year principal and interest, and then your monthly here, okay? Down here, what you have is your market rent. So market rent we're saying is 1,500. If your market rent by the appraiser is 1,500, then based on that equation, your debt ratio would be 1.16. Here you have the leased rent at 1,600, your DSCR ratio would be 1.23. Right. So everyone, that's how the DSCR is calculated. And so you can see though, if you don't have enough rent, you could run into trouble qualifying for the loan that you want. Now, in reality, we'll end up giving you an amount, but it will be, if you're trying to do the DSCR, it keeps getting reduced until it fits what your rent is. And so that's how that works. Now, we do have programs that do not even use DSCR, but those rates, everything has a cost. So those are not going to be anywhere approaching 7 or 8%. Those are going to be typically 10 or up, where we're not even using DSCR or any other means to qualify. So I just want to lay that out for you. And it's been a great class, guys. If anyone has any other burning questions, feel free to message us. I'll try to share them with everyone. I really appreciated having everyone on, and we'll cover DSCR a little bit more next week. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Bye, guys.